Hello everyone and welcome to my kitchen. I'm going to do another little slow cooker dish for you today to help you make delicious and healthy vegetarian food at a decent budget. And so today we're going to make a version of a very traditional dish. It's a nettle soup. So you can't get much cheaper than going out into your back garden or into some nearby fields with your neighbour's permission, of course, and harvesting some fresh nettles. And of course, the fresher you get your vegetables, the better it's going to be for you, the more nutrition you're going to get out of them. So nettle soup is a very traditional dish from Britain, but they actually do versions of it all around the world. It is a very nutritious dish, nettle being high in fibre and also quite high in iron. And I'd recommend that this time of year, during springtime, when the nettles are growing up nice and fresh, we can harvest them and get the most out of them. We don't want to use nettles that have been sitting for long periods of time. Maybe the iron content could get a bit rich in older nettles, but new spring nettles are perfect. I actually make nettle tea in the mornings, which is very refreshing, and literally I just pluck a couple of the tops, the heads of nettles, chop them up fine and put them in boiling water, and it makes a delicious and very refreshing tea. But today we're going to make a soup out of it. Now, if I've already put you off, if you don't like the idea of using nettles, not to worry, you can actually replace the nettles with any green leafy veg. So a very pleasant alternative would be spinach, or as you can see I have a leek here. You could make leek, it basically ends up as leek and potato soup then if you change it, but any leafy veg, your cabbage or your bok choy would be very nice in it as well. But today I'm going to go with nettles. Now you have to be a bit gentle when you're harvesting nettles, because they are stinging nettles. They can sting you, but actually if you treat them with respect and you're very gentle with them, they don't sting. However, just to be on the safe side, the way I harvest them is I take a pair of scissors and I very gently move in and respectfully I snip with the scissors at the top section, just that much of the top of the head of the nettles, and I actually use the scissors to put them in my brown paper bag. And as you can see, I have a big bowl full of the nettles here. So a substantial number of nettles, just like spinach, they really do shrink down massively when you add hot water. So I'm going to blanch these nettles in a second, but let's look at the other ingredients for this lovely tasty soup. Okay, so we have several new potatoes. I'd say about 5 of these small new potatoes, chopped down nice and small. I've also added one of my favourites, sweet potato, into the mix as well, just because it gives a variety of colour. Remember, we want to eat the rainbow. We have 1 large onion, or 2 or 3 smaller onions, that they have been chopped up nice and fine as well. And you can see these 3 ingredients here. And as you can see, I have chopped everything to pretty much the same size. And that means that everything cuts nice and evenly. I've also, because we had it in our fridge and it's adding another colour and another vegetable to bring added nutrition, I've taken about that much of a leek that was actually left from another cooking session the other day. I think my husband made some sushi and he used leek in the sushi, so that was left over. So I'm a great believer in using up what is in your fridge rather than leaving things half used and moving on to the next. So we have a good hand length of leek. I have about a thumb length of some fresh ginger root, and I have about 3 cloves of garlic. Of course, you could use more or less to taste, And again, just because I like a little bit of a kick in my food, I like to have a wee bit of heat. I have a couple of our homegrown Cayenne Peppers, and these were grown, they were ready to harvest before Christmas, so we just strung them up as Christmas decorations and let them air dry nicely, and they are great. They store very nicely and we can use them. But you could use any chili pepper at all. You can use fresh chili pepper. It doesn't need to be dried. And I just remove the seeds and chop them up nice and fine to add a little bit of a nice healthy kick and a bit of extra oomph to my cooking. I mentioned to the neighbours that I was making this, and they were so excited because apparently their mum also makes nettle soup. And they were going, "Oh, are you using wild garlic?" And I was going, "No, because there isn't. Well, possibly there is some somewhere around here, but no, I just bought garlic." But that would be another way you could actually save on your ingredients, and absolutely then it'll be lovely and fresh. And wild garlic really does taste very beautiful indeed. The other wee ingredient that I'm using in the main body of the soup or stew, as you can see it's quite a thick soup, is Astragalus Root. Now you can get this at your health food shop, and you can also buy it in the Asian supermarket, and it is a lovely woody root, so you wouldn't eat it raw, but it lends itself perfectly to slow cooking because it takes time to release and relax and melt into the rest of your cooking. So in a 4-hour slow cooker project, it will actually melt away and you'll hardly notice it's there, but it has really lovely nutritional properties. So it's an added extra. I like it. I've got it in the cupboard and I want to use it while it's still relatively young in storage. Again, let's use what we've got rather than constantly going out and buying more ingredients and then they sit in our cupboards gathering dust. Just at the end there, traditionally often people would add cream to their nettle soup, but I have gone with a slightly healthier option of coconut. I've actually got a coconut and rice drink here, but coconut cream or coconut milk would be a very useful one that you could stir in at the end. Or with the coconut cream, yes, you could add it during cooking. Or another nice healthy option would be to go for the likes of a low fat or even a full fat yogurt, just to stir in at the end, not actually during cooking. So there we have it. These are the ingredients. So what I'm going to start with is my freshly boiled water, and I'm just going to blanch my nettles here to help get rid of the sting. Now what I have done, they might look chopped, but actually I have just used the scissors that I collected, that I harvested the nettles with, and sliced them up. And I've actually, before I started recording, I actually put them in a colander and gave them a jolly good wash. And even when I was collecting the nettles, I gave them a bit of a shake to help get rid of any wee insects or bugs, because you know, it won't do you any harm to get them in your food, but for them, you know, they have a life to live. So I just gave them a shake off and got rid of them by shaking first, and then gave them a jolly good wash. So sometimes with nettles you might get what we call cuckoo spit, which is actually just, it's the eggs of a particular insect that they sort of make a frothy white stuff on the underside. Again, it wouldn't do you any harm if it got into your food, but I'm sure most people would prefer not to have cuckoo spit in their food. So blanching the nettles like this, it's not absolutely necessary, but if you're wanting to chop them finer still, it takes the possibility of sting away. So to do this really thoroughly, I would actually have them in boiling water for about 90 seconds. So I have boiled my water and poured it on. I've actually been known to drink my nettle tea, which is just like this. This is nettle tea at this stage. And then afterwards take a bit of nettle out and eat it, and I did sting my lip. So if it's just touched with boiling water, it won't necessarily lose its sting, But if you do what I did and chop it in the bowl with your scissors and pour your boiling water over, by the time it has gone into your slow cooker and cooked for a good while, for your 4 hours, the sting will have well and truly gone out of it, and so there's no chance of them experiencing a sting while you're eating it. So as I say, it's well worth the slight risk. Of course, you have to be a bit careful. Nobody likes nettle stings. But if we think about it, you know, when you're chopping chilies, you have to be a bit careful. Even when you're chopping onions, you can get a bit, you know, it can make your eyes water. You have these little not exactly dangers, but cautions when we're using food. So I'm going to let my nettles steep, and that's boiled water, so I don't really want to stick my hands in it for that reason. I'll just let it steep there for a second. One ingredient I didn't mention, but I have it here, is my extra virgin olive oil. You could use butter, but I would say this is a better, a healthier option perhaps. Also, you may use, to go on with the theme of coconut, you could actually use your extra virgin coconut oil. But we only need a little drizzle in our pan. We only need a little touch of oil, really. And that's to blanch, to gently give the onions and the garlic and the ginger a bit of a flash fry just at the beginning. So if you remember from my last video, if you were watching that, you can actually use the inner tray of your slow cooker as a pan. Now it doesn't have a handle, and here it is here, and I've already put just my little tablespoon and a half full of oil in the pan. So because it doesn't have a handle, you have to be that little bit careful that when you're handling it, when you're getting it from the hob to the slow cooker, you don't actually burn yourself. So it's very useful to have your oven mitt handy for that. I'm going to bang this onto my hob, so for a second I'm going to be off screen. I'm turning my hob on to its highest setting. I'm grabbing my oven glove. And I'm going to take my onions. As you can see here, I've chopped them up nice and fine, and because I have a glass hob, it heats up nice and quick. Remember, you can use this inner of your slow cooker with most hobs, apart from an induction cooker, and you can just bung your ingredients straight in and give them a wee fry or a little sear. So that's perfect for the likes of searing your meat before you then put it into your slow cooker. So excuse me while I'm off screen here a wee second. I know it's not the most slick way of showing you, but it's as good as I can manage. So I'm literally just, you can already maybe hear the onions starting to sizzle. It's quite a thin little skin on the inner, so things go very quick indeed. And I'm actually going to now put in my leek as well as my garlic and ginger. So they're all nicely chopped and prepared to go in. So I'm just giving them all a bit of a flash fry, and actually I'm going to throw in at this stage my little bit of chopped cayenne pepper as well. So I like to just give it a little bit of introduction to the heat at this stage. So you can maybe hear that sizzling away. It doesn't take long. You don't have to have them absolutely thoroughly cooked through, but just that they've had a bit of a glaze with the oil. And there's a lovely smell coming from this already. Really nice. That lovely cooking smell that we all just salivate over. That's the lovely thing about the slow cooker. It just fills your kitchen with the most beautiful, mouth-watering anticipation. It's got that lovely gentle smell. It's not pumping steam up into the space the way using a high temperature would do. Good. Now, maybe if I wasn't doing a video, I would give this a few seconds longer, but I can already see that the steam is, or the onions are starting to go, they're starting to glaze that little bit. The leeks are getting nice, and just turn off the heat there. The leeks are getting nice and shiny. I'll just show you there if you can see. So I'm already just getting it started, and now I'm going to add it into my slow cooker tray. And you need to be careful when you're popping your slow cooker in that it's not wet underneath, a bit like a steamer. And now actually things can go very quickly indeed. So I'm going to bung in the rest of my ingredients. I have my sweet potato and my potatoes in here. And with new potatoes, I don't actually take their skins off. I just give them a jolly good wash. And with the sweet potato, I do take their skins off. Good, so that's that. And I'm going to, I might bung in the Astragulus in with the nettles just for a wee second. And grab myself a spoon and just press that around. And I'm actually going to use this water from the blanching of the nettles into the slow cooker, so I'm not wasting it. Actually, already a lot of the nutrients in the nettles will have gone into the water. So if I were to take the nettles out of this boiled water at this stage and pour the water away, I'd be losing some of those nutrients. So it really, as I say, it has made like a concentrated version of nettle tea, which is often used, in fact the soup, nettle soup, is often used for people if they're feeling a bit poorly, if they need a bit of a boost. Again, it's high in iron, so if you're anemic, it would be something that traditionally people would use. So I want to keep all of those good ingredients. And also I have used really lovely bottled, well water, so I don't want to waste that either. So now their nettles have, I'll just test it, yeah, see all the sting has gone out of the nettles, isn't that great? So I'm just going to bung that whole lot, whoops, that whole lot into my slow cooker. And you may notice again I have actually propped my slow cooker up on a couple of cork mats because the cooker is a cooker. It does heat, even though it's a gentler heat than a normal oven, and so I don't want to damage my kitchen table. So I'm just getting all of that ingredients in and just give it a little bit of a stir. Very nice. And you notice I didn't actually mention about any salt or pepper at this stage, but I think it would be nice to just have a little bit of salt and pepper. So I'm going to step over and grab my salt and pepper now. And we have to be a little bit careful with our salt because obviously we have to be careful of our sodium intake. So another possible option instead of using salt would be to use a nice healthy stock cube. So that would also add flavour, but of course stock cubes are quite high in salt. So if you're adding a stock cube, you don't actually need to add any more salt. But I'm going to use this Himalayan pink salt. If I use salt, I prefer to use something that's quite natural. So I would use 3 shakes or 3 twists and a bit of a shake, and that's as much as I'm going to use. Of course, if I absolutely have to, I could go for more later on. So yeah, I would use Himalayan pink salt or even sea salt rather than just your sort of table salt. but at a pinch, boom, 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 you could use that as well. And with the pepper, I'm going to go a wee bit more fast and loose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm doing 16 shakes. As I say, recently I watched a TV chef doing 18 twists, and he was doing quite a lot of twists with that. I'm a little bit less into the strong taste of pepper. I just like it to gently give everything a lift. And remember, there is some cayenne pepper in here already. So now that I have got all of my ingredients in, I maybe pop a little bit of my coconut milk in. Really, it's just for taste and to give it that slight creaminess. And I'm just wondering, I think possibly I will leave it until nearer the end of the cooking. Yeah, I think so. As I would with cream, I don't think it's a good idea to add it. And it's the same for the yogurt. I would use the yogurt actually to stir it in after it's served, and you can actually make it really rather artistic and pretty. On goes the lid, and I have the slow cooker set to a high heat. So it has different levels. It has off, low, medium and high. And with a high heat, a dish like this will take about 4 hours. So in that time, all of those lovely ingredients will soften and melt into each other, but it might take a little bit longer. We'll see. I have everything chopped nice and fine, and that helps with the speed of the cook. So if you have bigger chunks, it could take longer. So if you wanted to start this in the morning and leave it running while you're out at work and maybe just come back in the evening for dinner, you might think of putting it down to medium. Or if you're out for a very long time, you could have it down to low. And it means that the food won't be overly heated. It won't have turned to absolute mush and lost a lot of its precious nutritional value. So it's very versatile that way. It really does mean that you can leave it and not think about it, and then come home and boy, you've got this lovely healthy meal ready for you. So a very useful wee way to organise your day. Of course, you need to be a little bit organised. You have to think in advance before you use your slow cooker. Get your ingredients ready and get them sorted out first thing in the morning. But again, it is a very cheap option for you. And especially, as I say, if you're going out and harvesting food out in nature, it's free. Nettles are free and they're highly nutritious and they come absolutely fresh. So you can get your nutrition on a budget. Some other ways to budget: you can look for generic products in the shops rather than going for your labelled brands. Even in vegetables, sometimes you can get ones that have had a bit of zhuzh and fancy labels. But from the point of view of things like pasta or rice, actually they're much of a muchness. If you did a taste test, you could probably not tell the difference between a labelled brand and a supermarket's own brand. Even likes of broken rice you can sometimes get, which actually tastes lovely, but is a fair bit cheaper. So just before I finish, because really I've finished doing my cooking now, all the hard work now goes in on the slow cooker's side. But just a wee word about nutrition in general. We want to make sure that we get some carbohydrate every day and in 3 meals in general, unless you're in a specific diet or eating regime that you've coordinated with your doctor. So make sure you get some carbs or starches through your day. So let's think, what are carbs and starches? Well, in this meal we're looking at our potato and our sweet potato, but also you could go with rice, not necessarily in this dish, but you could have rice, you could have your oats, you could have quinoa, or quinoa, is that how you say it? Your various sort of starchy grains are all perfect, like tapioca as well, are all perfect for getting in a bit of complex carbohydrates. So sugar is also a carbohydrate, but it has a short chain and it will give you an instant flush of energy, but then you'll be left feeling hungry again very quickly. So we don't actually recommend that you eat simple sugars through your day. So we try to avoid putting sort of spoonfuls of sugar into our drinks and over our food if you can. But there are sweet alternatives that you might find just as tasty. So there is a date syrup, which is fructose and is full of nutrition and is actually very, very sweet. So if you have a sweet tooth, just a little bit of date syrup will fulfill that desire, that urge, and yet you're not piling on lots and lots of sugar. Of course, then you get your natural honeys, and again, honey is much, much sweeter than your processed sugar. So if you are using honey, you'll want to use a lot less. And of course, there's lots of fruit and veg. So that's taking you on to another food category, which is your fruit and veg. And of course, we want to take at least 5 portions of fruit and veg a day. That's what our government has laid out for us. But actually, on the continent, they ask everyone to eat 11 portions of fruit and veg a day. And actually, that is, if you can, that is even better. That's much, much better. And they've only said for us 5 because I think a lot of people just don't think that folks here would be able to fit more than 5 in every day. But with a little bit of effort, we can. Fruit, as I say, is high in natural sugars, fructose. So it's best actually eaten during the morning time when we're taking on our calories for the day to spend our day burning off the calories. So it's not so good to eat your fruits last thing at night because they'll wake you up. They're full of energy, and if we don't burn it off, we lay it down as fat. So fruit sugars in particular lay down as liver fat. So remember that fruit is really useful, but it's useful as fuel through our day. So eat your fruit during breakfast, as a snack, at lunchtime, but not really, it's not the best idea to eat it late at night. But vegetables, on the other hand, as opposed to fruit, they have some more carbohydrates in them, long chain carbohydrates, and they're packed full of fibre and lots of lovely minerals and trace elements and lovely nutritional blocks that we need to keep ourselves healthy and fit. So as many vegetables as you can, and remember we want to eat the rainbow. If we pick different colours of fruit and vegetables, the likelihood is we're getting different nutrients and trace elements that we need to build healthy and happy bodies. So we want to eat at least 3 carbs a day. We want to eat at least 5 portions, if not more, of fruit and veg a day. But also we want to eat some protein every day. So protein we don't need quite as much of as our carbohydrates and our vegetables. So what's in our protein, or what proteins can we use? Well, if you're a meat eater, you can go with your pork and your beef and your chicken and your all sorts of poultry and fish. And if you're a vegetarian, you can go for your nuts, beans, pulses, tofu, which is bean products, and of course if you're into dairy, I'm quite happy to have a little dairy, though I can't do much just with my own needs, special needs. I think dairy is very useful, and even eggs do have a good portion of protein in them. So make sure you get some protein every day. And fermented, actually I find it much easier for fermented milk products are very useful and have other healthy bacteria that you can really benefit your gut flora and fauna by taking in fermented products like your kefir, your sort of fermented milk drink, and your yogurts as well. So oils, on the other hand, we want a little bit every day, a very little bit. So that means we want to avoid deep frying everything, things like crisps and donuts. They're very high in fat, and really they sit outside of the pie chart of healthy food. So they would be like little treats. Your buns, your cakes, all of these high fat and sugar products really are occasional little treats to enjoy, rather than something that we want to be eating as a general rule every day. But fats are very useful and very beneficial. We actually need them in our diet, but just in a very small quantity. So a salad with a lovely fresh salad with just a little bit of extra virgin olive oil poured over, and maybe some balsamic vinegar, is a perfect addition to your diet, and is actually good for your heart. A lovely good for you fat as well is avocado. And avocado, I've heard called nature's butter. So you can take an avocado, half an avocado, and slice it onto a piece of toast, and it has that lovely rich buttery texture. It's soft, it sort of lubricates the toast, and yet it is a very healthy fat. And again, very good for your heart, and your general system will thank you. Extra virgin olive oil is particularly useful. It's very good in small quantities. You can use it raw by dipping your bread into it. Again, a little mix of your extra virgin olive oil and some balsamic vinegar, or even apple cider vinegar. Lovely addition for just helping introduce that little bit of oil that we need in our diet. I've heard people say they've cut out salt altogether. Actually, that's kind of dangerous. I mean, a lot of pre-prepared foods have salt in them. So if you're eating pre-prepared foods, you're getting your quota of salt. But to completely eradicate sodium from your diet is actually dangerous. We need a little bit. We need traces of salt. So as you see, I put a few twists of salt into this food. And it's the same with fat. We don't want to absolutely eradicate fat from our diet. We just don't want to be binging on it. And foods that get us to want to binge would be like your chocolate and your cake, things, and crisps, things that are like half fat and sugar are very moreish. We just want to eat more and more and more, and they don't seem to satisfy. So that kind of tells you if something's unhealthy, if when you eat it, you actually crave more. When we eat, we want to feel satisfied and full and comfortable. So a little bit of fat is good, but be careful that we're not overindulging. So your coconut oil, extra virgin coconut oil, it actually comes in a solid form, so it's a fat as opposed to an oil. It's a healthy oil as well when consumed in moderation. And if you are wanting to, as I did, sear food with the onions and such, if you want to heat the oil up, then the coconut oil is a really nice one, because it seems to keep its positive attributes even when it has been heated, whereas olive oil actually is better when it's not overly heated. So there you go. We've looked at our carbohydrates, we've looked at our vegetables, we've looked at our proteins, and we've looked at our fats. But we want to take out highly salted sauces and highly sugary sauces. They sit outside of our pie chart of healthy foods. But have a look at all the fruits and vegetables that are out there. There's so many on offer, and be a bit adventurous. Even if you go to the likes of the Asian supermarket, there's lots of things you may not even recognise. So the folks there will be very happy to explain how you eat them and how you use them. And some of them come with a bit of a surprise, like bitter melon. It's quite bitter, as the name suggests. So be playful, please, with your food, as I'm being today with nettles. So I'm going to have a lovely meal here with my stinging nettle soup or stew. And our neighbours seem so excited about it. Their mum is away. And I mentioned I was cooking this, so I've promised to bring round a couple of bowls for the boys of this nettle stew once it's ready. So I wish you a very happy day and enjoy your cooking. Be adventurous and of course be sensible if you don't know how to do something. Googling is great, and also going to YouTube. I actually got my recipe here, the idea, from YouTube. So I'll share the link for that as well, that you can look into all aspects of making nettle soup from that. Well, okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Happy cooking.